This video is about 30 years in the making, but today I decided I had to do it. You know, I'm always talking about personal development because it's what I've been doing my entire life. And I've gotten my information or my training or knowledge or whatever it might be from a lot of different sources. And I try to bring that together in a way that makes it practical for everyone else. What I'm trying to do is offer something that has helped me and give it to other people to help them to become authentic, to own who they are, to accept every single aspect of their life. But I haven't done that completely because there's one little area. It was not a little area, it was a pretty big area to me that happened in my life that I hadn't been willing to share because I still carry around this fear, this judgment. Now, what I always try to help my clients and everyone that I work with try to understand is that you've got to let go of that stuff. You've got to accept every experience that you've had because there's some value there. Even if you don't know what it is right now, there is value there for you. Now, what happened for me back in 1983, that's why this is where this started. It ended in 98, but back in 1983, I had a couple of friends who decided that they had received a Ouija board and they decided to start to do that. Now, I know when I say Ouija board, some of you are going to go crazy. That's the devil. That's all kinds of things because we form all kinds of beliefs about what comes through. A lot of people have certain ideas about religion and how crazy all of that is. My idea is this. I try to take information from wherever it comes from. I don't care the source. I want to know, does it resonate for me? Is it going to help me improve my life in some way? If that is the case, then I'm going to accept that information. This is why I've studied so many different religions, because I always find something in there. I won't agree with everything, but I will find something. There's an element of truth, and you know what resonates for you because you feel it. It feels real for you. So what started to happen when we started doing this Ouija board, it was just fun. We thought it was just a game. Then all of a sudden what started to happen is that words would start to come through as we were doing the board. Now, I wasn't doing it. These two guys were doing it because they had some sort of connection that we could not figure out, but all of a sudden words started coming through. Now, over about 5 years, this progressed. We ended up documenting volumes of information. Now, years ago, I was talking about this to someone, and I realized where I shut down because they said, if this really happened, why didn't you guys ever publish it? Well, because people would think we were crazy. People would start to have a lot of judgment about that. They would think we made it up. And I will tell you to this day, I have shown people these messages and they read them and they're like blown away and they said they could not possibly have been dictated that way. Well, I was there. I was the one doing the transcribing, so I know that it occurred. So I wanted to share a little bit of one because a lot of these messages that would come through directed at me, I would be yelled at a lot. I wouldn't listen. I was very stubborn because I was afraid a lot of the time, which is also what makes me a good coach because I see all of this in other people because I've gone through it. Now, but this part I have never shared. So this was back in this particular message. Let me just try to show you. We would get, as I said, I just want you to see, some of them we would type, and so we have volumes and volumes of information, but they were all transcribed. You know, I would write them down first. But let me read this one. Roger asked, we would ask questions. The entity's name that came through was Kira. There was no sexuality. We just felt it was a female entity, but it didn't matter. But that's how we felt. And she was really hysterical a lot of times, and she would kind of yell at us. And you'll see that what went on for me. So this was May of 1988. And this is when all of this ended. Now, after it ended in 1988, and it ended because one of the persons that were doing using the board, they passed away, unfortunately. So everything just stopped. We could never find that connection again. But what happened in 1988, after this ended, then I started at the end of 1988 doing what's called automatic writing or channeling. Now, I guess that started to come through because I was accepting of that there is information that we can find outside of ourselves if we are willing to do that and don't cut ourselves off with our own judgment about what it might be. So I asked the question, um, general personal overview of his present direction. Now, understand at this time I was performing a lot. That was my life. And this was the answer that I received. Your effusive enthusiasm for living life is proving to be fertile ground for unlimited creativity to boundless forms, and you deserve the recognition that will certainly be yours. Certain because you have centered in the certainty of your own intrinsic beauty and worth. If there is an area of your experience that needs filling out, as it were, it is something I have referred to before: the spontaneous generosity of interest in the needs and experiences of others. Mind you, I understand that the amount of self absorption is essential for your career ambitions, encouraged by me. But outside of your performing interests, there remains a slightly peremptory attitude toward human beings who would have your ear for sympathy, for counsel, for companionship. Nevertheless, than personable, still, you are often glib and glossy where more genuine attention should be paid. What she's referring to here is that I was out being this performer, and at the same time I had started doing coaching. I had started doing life coaching, but she's telling me I didn't quite go far enough. I would stop. And then when I felt this, I actually kind of stopped coaching for a little while. Because of that, I realized that it goes on a little bit more. But then towards the end, I needed some clarification. I said, I wanted to know clarification on how the above related to his counseling work, my counseling work, which I had started to do. And then she says, now, it was not my intent to cast aspersions on what you have accomplished in counseling, in singing, in your personal life. I only meant to point out the place where you suddenly stop, pull back, and draw down an invisible wall between you and your subject, usually just before reaching an emotional epiphany. It is a natural function of the pussyfoot ego, and nothing to beat yourself up over the head with. But how much more genuinely helpful your counsel would be, how moving your singing, how life transforming your relationships, if this barrier could be penetrated with love and benevolent confidence. That's what I've worked on for 30 years. Those words meant so much to me, and I got to sit and look at that, and so I devoted my life to changing all of that. Anyway, the whole point of this video is that I had to own this because I realized that I was saving this information. I have taken so much of this. I would take these messages and the information from them. I would use them in my performances. I would use them when I would counsel people in my coaching, all the time. But the other part of it, and this is, I could not live with this anymore, I would tell everyone else, and I'm telling you, own what's happened. Own every experience that you have. As crazy as it might seem to you, there is some value there or you would not have had it. I cannot say that enough. And I could not live with myself anymore saying this to you if I wasn't doing it myself. And that's why I did this video. I hope that this kind of opens your thinking into accepting information, no matter where it comes from, if it resonates or it feels right for you. And if we take down some of those walls, then we can create whatever we want in our lives. Hope that helps you. Thanks.